Thank you, Aliqua. The notice requirement provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. Notice having been properly given, said notice having been transmitted to the Courier News on Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, as well as posting on the city's website, City of Plainfield. Mr. Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Council members Briggs Jones. Currently not present. Councilwoman Davis.
Present.
Councilman Hockaday.
Present.
Councilman McKenna.
Present.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom.
Present.
Vice President McCray.
Present.
Council President Good.
Present.
We have 6 members present and a quorum.
This evening, the Plainfield Municipal Council will conduct its budget deliberations on the 2022 calendar year municipal operating budget. And this session is scheduled to discuss the Plainfield Public Works and also our Plainfield Police Division. And tonight, we are going to, I know what was supposed to be, but because of a request, we're going to have the Department of Public Works go first. So with the Department of Public Works, please begin their budget overview. Good evening, Director Dabney. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Council President Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay, I'll get started. Again, good evening, Council President Good, Vice President McCray, distinguished council members, CBAC Chairperson Bright, CBAC Advisory Committee members, cabinet colleagues, Department of Public Works Division heads, administrative staff, the Honorable Mayor Mapp, and the general public. The Department of Public Works is pleased to present its 2022 operating budget. Department of Public Works comprised of 7 divisions: Public Works, Signal Systems, Engineering, Parks and Recreation, Inspections, Senior Center, and the Parking Utility, which is self-sustaining, with an overall 2022 operating budget request of $8,948,833, of which $7,767,095 is for salaries and $1,181,738 for other operating expenses. Please note again that $776,873 of this budget includes the parking utility that is self-sufficient/sustaining. Minus the $776,873, the overall budget will reduce to $8,171,960. Our overall Department of Public Works mission is to continue improving on all services provided to ensure the health, safety, welfare, and quality of life of all residents. My dedicated administrative staff, division heads, and their respective employees shall continue pursuing our mission on a daily basis. Now, I would like to give a brief overview of all 7 divisions within the department, so the CBAC Commission will have a general idea of service provided. Division of Public Works provides maintenance and repairs to city streets and other related infrastructure maintenance, such as potholes and crack sealing repair, mechanical street sweeping, tree care, recreation maintenance, building maintenance, fleet maintenance, property abatement maintenance, stormwater maintenance, leaf collection, snow removal, and other emergency response services that may arise. And just record, we removed 5,000 yards of debris during Hurricane Ida, assisting, the PMUA with services, which was important to the residents of City of Plainfield. Our Signal Division. Services provided are repairs and replacement of city street lights, traffic controller, traffic and street signs, emergency repair due to accidents, inclement weather, installation, video surveillance cameras, alarm systems, iPhone wiring, emergency response for light outages processed through PSE&G. Okay, we have 253 signals, 30,000 traffic signs and markings. Our Engineering Division. Service provided are road improvement design, stormwater management, floodplain management, parks, project design and construction management, grant funded projects management, street openings, permits, inspection management, construction site permit management, approvals, and other capital improvement projects and services as needed. We resurfaced 2 miles of roadway in 2122, Prospect Avenue and East Third Street in JDOT and with CDBG grant funding for $1,095,324. Our Parks and Recreation will hopefully be opening parks citywide commencing in May. And I say hopefully due to the fact that it's hard right now getting lifeguards and park monitors. I guess with the competition out there, I guess we're going to have to look to raise the rates based on what's going on with that. We'll continue providing virtually in-person activities, programs with our pool scheduled to open this summer. Again, lifeguards are needed and park monitors, which is hard for us to get, but we're going to start advertising, of course, Facebook and everywhere else we can to try to make this a reality this summer. Inspections. Service provided are to impact all property maintenance, exterior and interior code enforcement violations, and buying those properties in violation compliant with all property code, to provide certificate of compliance for sale, rental, inspection exemptions where applicable, in addition to property maintenance cleanup referrals for city and private property abatement across the city. Cleaning liens. In 2021, division inspections conducted 763 property maintenance inspections across the city. Our senior center. The center provides services to anyone 55 years of age and older. Currently, there are 1,300 seniors on the membership list. Division head goal is to increase membership in 2022-23 to approximately 1,500 by using resources at no cost to the city. Our parking utility, to provide and maintain, maximize all street and off-street municipal public parking for residents, business and visitors across the city. We have purchased and installed 36 kiosk pay stations, 37 digital, dual head meter stations, and 12 single head meters. These pay stations and meter offer all users 3 payment options: pay by coin, credit card, and by phone. That's just a brief overview of everything that we're doing here in Division of Public Works Services. We have, just so you know, Councilman, just for the record, as I move forward, our Division of Public Works Engineering Signal, we have been working, getting things done throughout the city. We milled and paved 13 roads, totaling 2.7 miles in 21. We did crack sealing work of 38,500 linear feet of roadway, which totals 7.229 miles. And that's crack sealing work that we did there with that. That adds to the life expectancy of the road 3.3 to 5 years of each road. So that's something we're going to continue doing throughout. And the goal, objective, is continue doing more than 12 miles this year. We're hoping to try to do 20 if we can, based on the coastal weather, temperature, and et cetera. But it's ideal for everything that we do with that. Totally 4.7 miles of roadway was done in 2021. We did 753 exterior inspections, which is grass, weeds, all type of property violations on the exterior. We did 101 quality of life inspections and re-inspections, and all re-inspections were abated. 745 certificate of compliance were issued for sales of properties, which is showing how much Plainfield is booming. 136 rent-to inspections. And it's an overview of how much Plainfield is just growing in terms of inspections we've done. In our signal division, we're looking to do fixed time flow of traffic, meaning our traffic lights, to make sure they're in sequence and up to date, so we can have better traffic calm and flow of traffic across the city of Plainfield. In addition, we're looking to install speed humps in 2022 in various parts of the city, again, for more better traffic calm. We're going to look to upgrade lights on South Avenue. We did 4, and there's another 80 we're looking to upgrade with LED lighting. So there's a lot of little things we're undertaking here in the city of Plainfield to make things better. So that's it, I guess. Mr. Council President, I'll just take any questions you may have so I can review everything in the budget with all council members and CBAC Commission.
You're muted, Council President.
Yes, I just unmuted myself. Thank you so much. Director Dabney, thank you so much. We appreciate that. We're going to start with the governing body to see what questions they may have. From what I understand, Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones has submitted some questions, and she's satisfied with those answers that Director Dabney has supplied to her. So we'll move right along to Councilwoman Ashley Davis.
Thank you. Director Dabney, in signaling and inspections, they both have a $50,000 increase in salaries. Are these for new positions?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Also in inspection, they're asking for that one new position, but I see in their overtime, they haven't used overtime for the past 2 years. So if they're not even utilizing overtime, why do they need a new position?
That's a good question. Well, the overtime wasn't utilized this last past 2 years, but the position itself is for citywide work to get things done across the city, which we're inundated with inspections. We have them all over the place. And just to add to that, we're looking, overtime will be utilized eventually, but at the time, we were just slow to get everything caught up with everything else. We didn't want to put people out there at night. And plus with this pandemic, that 1 year, we didn't just touch anything because we weren't doing internal inspections. So we didn't do that. But this year here, yes, we were delayed in some things. So we didn't use overtime. I just didn't use overtime. I just held back on that. But we do need the enforcement out there, the bodies, the able bodies do that. Even with the overtime, it wouldn't increase the amount of manpower we need to cover the areas we need to cover.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Welcome.
Councilman Steve Hockaday. You're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have any questions.
Councilman McKenna.
Yes, so one comment, I'd like to see some numbers in the goals, and this kind of goes across all the departments I've seen the goals for. Becoming more green should have some sort of numerical goal. Quality of life task force review, and then ending with more to come is a little generic. One thing, just a takeaway, because I know you don't have the answer now because it's the third budget meeting I've asked for. This information, the Safe Path to Schools grant that the state gave us. If you could send me the information on where we spent that and what crosswalks we did near the schools, that would be great. My first question, we don't have any seasonal workers in DPW this year. I noticed it's zeroed out. Is there, why is that? When
That's Councilman, good question. But let me answer the first one too, if you don't mind. What you said about Safe Routes to School. Safe Routes to School is coming this summer. That'll be being done, the work over there in the area. Everything was designed. So we'll be headed now to get that done, just for the record.
that was a 2017 grant.
Well, the funds are still there and the monies are there, so we needed more funds. So it's coming together to get everything done over there with Safe Routes to School. That'll be getting done.
5 years after the grant.
It'll be getting done based on delays with some of the funds. So,
Okay, so the last year answer where you had already spent it, you were going to get me the info, was not a correct answer. You haven't spent it.
say it again, Councilman, sorry.
I said the last year's answer where you had already done it and you were going to get me the information, which I didn't get. You hadn't actually spent the funds yet.
Well, you said you asked for information. I apologize. I'll get you information you need. Yes, the funds would be being spent. Yes. It's
Okay,
coming up.
so send me information on where you're going to spend it and when, if you would.
I'm sure that's not a problem at all.
Okay,
And
then
the next
seasonal
question,
workers.
there's other question is that's coming, that's gonna be ARPA funding that we'll be getting to cover the cost for the seasonals for Public Works.
So you're not going to spend any money on seasonal workers.
I'm just going to plug in here because I think this is going to be a common question throughout the night. In our last council meeting, we voted a reappropriation of some of the ARPA money. I think it was $2 million that we are plugging into the city budget for seasonal workers, police overtime, PPE, safety equipment. So there's a lot of lines that you're gonna see, not only in the DPW budget, but also in police and all the other departments, where the request is there, and then you see we zeroed it out or we significantly lowered it. Those are the ones that were voted on last week to be reappropriated into the budget that way. So seasonal workers are one of the things that we reappropriated last week into the budget to use ARPA money with.
And what is that figure? Because we're gonna have an expenditure line, correct?
What is the figure of,
Seasonal workers for DPW.
so what did he
In the-
request?
In the budget, it's zero. So the budget has an expense line and a revenue side, right?
And what's the
The
request?
expense side needs to have a figure.
Okay, so what was the request? You're
Zero.
talking about the Division of Public Works?
Yes.
110,000 was requested.
Just the seasonal. No, not your request, the administration's request.
You're talking about, I'm going to the page that you're looking at now so that I
It
can.
was 110,000 requests that we asked for.
Okay, and that's what we are.
Actually, seasonal workers, you asked for 110,000, the administration asked for zero. It's straight line.
So, no, the
That's what-
administration is recommending $0 because we're gonna fill that 110,000 with ARPA money that we reallocated last week.
Okay, so it should be noted that the budget expenditure for seasonal workers is going to be 110,000.
That
It
is
will be
correct.
110,000, yes. And you're gonna see that repeatedly throughout the night and throughout these upcoming nights. So that's why I wanted to get ahead of it now, so that everybody knows what they're looking at when they see those big numbers. And then they have a,
And
line.
clarify for me, B. Levinson, that was a $2.1 or $2.3 million reallocation.
I have to look at the resolution. Director West,
Should
you
be
know
two point five.
Yeah, it was,
2.5, so we have a $100 million budget that now has a $2.5 million expenditure increase over the 100 million, correct?
it
There
was supposed to
is,
fast for me. I couldn't follow that.
there is an allocation that totals $8 million on with ARPA-related expenses spread across different categories.
And where
The
is that?
the seasonal worker piece, the seasonal worker piece in general is $594,000 across all organizations.
And that, we're gonna get to that in recreation, et cetera, correct?
Yeah, you're gonna see it in recreation. You're gonna see it in multiple divisions.
So the additional 5 million is not gonna be an addition to the budget, it's already elsewhere in a line item. As an expenditure,
Correct.
and it's spread out everywhere?
Wherever there was a request for seasonal workers, they were all grouped under a single line called seasonal workers. And again, there's $594,000 worth of seasonal worker requests across all organizations.
So
Just
in the
know that
budget,
there's 3 minutes remaining.
that's fine, in the budget, there's $594,000 in a budget line for seasonal workers that's gonna be spread out over multiple.
Yes.
Correct.
So let me go through real quick. Tell me about the senior program where we have program and community initiatives. The department asked for 60,000. Mayor kept it at 28,000. What was the delta there, the 32,000 that we're not gonna do, that the department wanted to do? Or is that in another line item too that we don't know about?
Was that, Councilman? I'm sorry.
I said program and community initiatives in the senior budget. The department asked for 60,000. The administration asked for 28,000, which is what was submitted to us. What was the difference there? 32,000 that they wanted to do that the administration doesn't want to do. For the seniors, which you said earlier, we're going to take from 1,300 to 1,500.
Yes,
Dr. Dabney, I believe that was regarding social work services that we've decided to do on a part-time basis.
that was there. It was in 2 locations, right? It was for social work and
Yes,
nutrition,
I think we budgeted it twice.
nutritionists, social workers, cetera. That's what that was for.
Gonna increase seniors from 1,300 to 1,500, and then we're gonna do part-time nutritional social work.
Excuse me, they're going to do, say it again, Councilman, so I heard what you say.
So you're gonna increase the number of seniors on your senior list, but you're gonna just do a part-time nutritional social worker position instead of a full-time.
Well, the goal is to try to become full-time over time. Yes, that's the initial goal to do that.
Yeah, that's a new program. And it needs to have some history before it gets fully funded.
Really a pilot now.
And the summer school, the summer pool program is also part of your seasonal,
Yes,
Yes,
yes, it is.
as well as the Parks and Rec seasonal, which I asked before, just to clarify, the 300K.
Yes, that would be for the same thing, yeah.
All out of that budget line. All right, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mills Ransom. You're muted, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I submitted to you and to the clerk the questions that my CBAC representative had sent to Mr. West. And I said to you in the email that I supported those, so I'm waiting to hear the answers to those.
Thank you so much. That slipped my mind. The most recent knowledge that I had was of Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones. I did receive your email. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Move right along to our chair and vice president.
Sorry, Council President, what were the questions, and do we get answers to them, or we just move along because we skipped it?
Director Dabney, would you mind reading those questions and answering those for us?
I'm trying to figure out, I don't have the questions. I'm trying to.
Council President, if I may,
Yes.
all CBAC questions go through the CBAC chair. And the CBAC chair will have the opportunity to ask each department head the questions on behalf of CBAC.
Mr. Clerk, thank you. So to answer your question, Councilman McKenna, the chair of CBAC will be answering those questions.
Can I answer them or just gonna ask them?
Councilman McCray.
I'm good.
Okay, so now, Madam Chair, the CBAC, would you please introduce the CBAC members before you ask your questions so that the public, all that don't know who they are, will know.
Hi, good evening. I'm Robin Bright. I live in the 3rd Ward, and I was selected by Councilman Charles McCray. We have Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson. She was selected by Councilwoman Jolette Mills Ransom. Walter Harris, who was selected by Ashley Davis, Councilwoman Ashley Davis. Corey Pettis, who was selected by Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones. Miss Loveday, who was selected by Councilman Sean McKenna. And
It's Miss Trumbull. Her first name is Loveday.
I'm sorry, what is her name?
Her name is Loveday Trumbull, so she's Miss Trumbull.
Loveday Truffles. Okay, got it.
Trumbull. Trumbull.
Thank you. And I believe, and Charles Simmons, who was selected by Councilman Steve Huckaday. I think I'm missing a.
Sylvia Owens.
Okay. Unfortunately, we just had our first meeting, an introductory meeting with Director Ron West on Monday, and only 4 of us showed up for the meeting. So we haven't heard anything from 3 of the CBAC members. There was a couple of questions submitted by one of the CBAC members who was present. on the meeting on Monday. She has a question about the safety supplies. There was 0 allocated for 2022 and 5,000 requested in actual for 2021. Same thing with janitorial supplies. There was 0 requested for this year's budget, and 2021 budget, there was $25 requested in actual. So there was a question on that. There were some other questions.
Madam Chair,
online.
did you divide those from public safety as opposed
Pardon
to, those questions are divided? Because right now, I believe we're doing Director Dabney.
Yes,
first.
that was Public Works. That
Okay,
was for Public Works.
Okay.
Well, that two, if you don't mind, that 251 and 252, that 0 is for opera. Those are opera funds for those two. For 251, Chairperson Bright, 251, 252, those are opera funds for both of those 2 0 outs.
All righty, thank you. Let me get back to Department 290,004 on line 104. Well, I think you already answered this question about overtime. The question was with the hire of new, there was quite a few new hires throughout the department. So we were questioning why the need for a $53,000 increase in overtime. Line 225 in the same department, for traffic signs and stripping, the question was, there was no money allocated for that, and we were wondering if that was being moved somewhere else.
Just to answer that for you, Chairperson Bright, if you don't mind, I would, that line I was moved to signal systems, line 253, that's where that went. They're handling the strike and all the signage. That's where that was moved to.
On line 206 in Department 305, the 22 actual amount was $46,717. And we were wondering why there was only $2,000 being requested and recommended by the admin. Line 256, there was an increase of $50,000. We were wondering about that. Department 371, line 101. 2001, it appears there was an increase of 156,000 requested and no recommendation from admin for this year. We're just wondering if there was no, and I believe that might have been for seasonal workers. And I think you already addressed that. It was line 101. But maybe not for seasonal workers.
Warren, let's do this. I think at this point, the best thing to do on those specific questions is to let's send me those responses in writing, and I'll make sure they get to the CBAC group and even the council, so they can see what the questions were and what our responses are. And that way, there's a record. On the general questions that they asked, they did get responses back this afternoon. Doesn't mean that they won't have more questions, but the intent is to make sure that from an educational perspective, they can see and understand everything that was asked, by them, and our responses back to them, if that works for you.
Absolutely, yes, it does. Whatever needs to be done, we'll make sure what happens.
And Ron, you have a list of those questions or those line items. I sent it to you earlier today.
That's correct.
All righty, that was it. Thank you.
Council colleagues, I will allow an additional minute for any follow-up questions you may have.
Council President, I just have a quick procedural question.
Councilman McKenna.
I feel like we're a little all over the place here because we have multiple questions coming from the CBAC, which are probably very good questions, but I only saw one email today. And I don't see, Director West mentioned that that responses were sent out. I didn't see any responses. And he also mentioned that if Chairperson Bright sent her questions that hadn't been answered, he would send them to the CVAC members and also to the council, which, this is a council budget, not an administration budget. So I feel like we're just all over the place here. What exactly is the process? Is it different than what I saw in the email about outlining this process, or?
Director West.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, when I get questions from CVAC,
I'm sorry, if I could just interrupt, Director West, with all due respect. My question was to the council president. This is the council budget. That question was for you. We decide how this process works, and you are the one that presents it. If this is your problem, this is our process, not the administration's process.
Exactly. And we work very closely with the finance director, and of course.
So do we have him answer our questions when this is a council budget? How is it you asked for this to be laid out in the flow?
I have a question for the director, if you'll allow.
I haven't had my question answered yet. Can we do them one at a time?
The council members are to submit their questions along with the CBAC. And those
so I didn't
answers.
Get any council questions. I got one list of CBAC questions one council group of questions from Councilwoman Briggs Jones. I didn't see any CBAC questions. I didn't see any responses. And this isn't really how this is to be done, where we send our answers and questions via email and we just sit here and stare at each other. So I don't understand what this process is.
Well, in all respect to you, Councilman McKenna, I don't think we're sitting here staring at each other. Questions
we're not getting questions answered. So far, only 2 council people have asked questions. And it's a council budget. So what is it we're doing? The CVAC, they don't have their questions together. They claim they're being emailed. I haven't seen them. You haven't seen them. The administration's saying they've answered questions that were emailed. I haven't seen those either. So what you tell me how we're not staring at each other.
Director West, how many questions have you received via email?
I had received 2 emails with multiple questions, but from my perspective, and what worked last year too, was that when CBAC asks questions, I send those responses back to CBAC and to the finance committee of the council. Any responses that I have, I'm still awaiting responses from directors Dabney and Abney with regard to their responses to the questions that were specifically for them.
So
why is it we're having so many responses done via email when these are public hearings and we should just be asking the questions? If we want to send them to the directors so that they can do a little homework in advance, I get that, but we should be asking them publicly and having them answer them. Especially if we send them in advance. If they can't answer them in advance, what are we doing here?
Those questions.
This is like the goofiest thing I've ever seen. Everything's via email, which none of us are getting, and we're the ones that are doing the budget.
Director West, the questions that were asked, would you please let the governing body know what they were, please?
Well, I will have to.
I guess the proper question would be: were those questions answered, and were they satisfied with those answers? Just as Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones asked her questions to the Director Dabney, and she was satisfied with the answers of her questions. Any council members that have submitted any questions to be answered, as long as they were answered to their satisfaction, I don't see a need for them to be repeated again in this session.
It's a public hearing. We're all council people. We should hear everybody's questions. We should all discuss it and hear the answers. Why are we doing this via multiple emails going off in different directions? I don't understand this at all. This is not a public hearing. This is us talking about people sending emails to who knows who.
The intent, I believe, and I shouldn't be speaking for the CBAC, was that in our responses, we would be providing the specific answers to the questions. That didn't occur today. What we will have to do is send out the questions and answers, as soon as I have all of those answers back. Now, for the generic questions that came in today, I responded to CBAC. And again, that was more for their learning. And these weren't things, and the one question that I answered from Councilwoman Briggs Jones was whether or not there was money allocated for a roads budget. I don't think that response needed to go to the full council because you know that was on the bond ordinance.
And for the sake of the public, what were the remaining questions that Councilwoman Jones asked?
Would you like for me to ask them?
Councilwoman Briggs Jones, yes, you can. Go right ahead,
Okay.
please.
All right, first of all, I just apologize to everybody because this email thing is just a little crazy, but that's okay. So I just want to just say, first of all, good evening to everybody, Mayor Matt, fellow council members, and Plainfield City Clerk, Deputy Clerk, and Plainfield constituents. I just want to make sure I say that. And I just want to say, you know, although this is my first time as an elected official, I look forward to working as a team to move forward this year's city budget. So, you know, as we moving forward with the hearing, I would like to thank the directors for all their work that they do for the city of Plainfield. So I just want to make sure that's on the record and that you know that. So with that, moving forward, the first question I had asked is, were there any funds allocated to any commissions such as the shade tree, the flood, the housing and everything? Director Dabney did address the question, and he can tell you.
What was the answer, Councilwoman Briggs Jones?
Okay, Director Dabney said that the funds come from somewhere else regarding the shade tree and flood and housing. And I said, okay, I'm okay with that. And the reason why I asked that question is because I'm on the committee for the shade tree. And of course, I take a very big interest in that to beautify the city, you know, as well as learning how the shade tree works. So I just wanted to say that he did address the question appropriately and did tell me that the funds come from somewhere else. And then actually, the business administrator, Ron West, he did answer the question also as well. And I asked about the budget for the street repairs. And they did answer that appropriately also as well about the grants. Then there was the question that he can also answer right now, Director Dabney. And again, I was satisfied with that. And I asked him, was there a projection in savings in staff, such as retirement and layoffs? And Director Dabney, couldn't you just answer that for me, please?
Yes, I was just saying, based on what you asked me with that, when someone retires and we replace them, we go at a lower level. In other words, if it's a clerk 4, we may hire somebody new as a clerk 1 because that clerk 4 was there because of the years of service they were in. They were at a higher range. So the new hire would come in at a lower range. So yes, there is some savings there to that, yes.
Okay. And then the next question was, were there any major differences in your budget from last year to this year? And I said to please explain.
Mm-hmm. And there weren't many major differences other than I'm saying park enforcement, some new hires we want, and that's pretty much it. So.
Okay. And then my last question is, in brief, which will probably be addressed to all directors during this hearing, is in brief, what changes are you asking for in the new budget?
And simple, I was saying, like, just repeat, just some other new hires and funds that we can do to continue providing services. So.
Councilwoman Briggs Jones, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Director
thank you.
Dabney.
Welcome, Councilman.
Council colleagues, any questions that cannot be answered during our budget process, and a specific director needs to get back to you, they will email you. Moving forward, all those questions will be asked at each deliberation. They will no longer be emailed. Moving forward, you will ask your questions during each session. That way it's email. However reliable it may or may not be, we're not doing that. We will bring our questions to each session. Okay?
So to clarify, no questions should be emailed, but brought to the budget hearing. But if we have
to clarify,
I wasn't finished with my question.
I know, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to rephrase that. You can bring your questions to the deliberation. However, if those questions can't be answered, then that particular department will reach out to you with your response as
So,
expeditiously as possible.
so we're not emailing questions in advance.
No, we're not. We're not emailing anything in advance. But if your questions cannot be answered, that department head will get back to you.
I think that sounds fair.
Okay?
Thanks. Council President, I had a
Yes,
follow-up.
Councilman Hockaday, I apologize. Go right ahead, sir.
No problem. I see in one of your goals, Director, you are to hire additional code enforcement officers to help with the backlog of inspections. Can you give us an idea of what that backlog looks like? How many code enforcement officers you're looking to hire? Would that be a temporary hiring of those inspectors? Or would we permanently need to increase our employee capacity there to keep up with the booming real estate market in Plainfield?
Yes, that's a valid question, Councilman. And yes, I mean, the city of Plainfield, on a positive note, is booming in terms of real estate, et cetera. So that's require quite a few more inspections. We currently have 6 inspectors. The new one will be 7. The goal eventually is try to get to 10. We can, because again, the city is growing, steadily growing, and we need to do a lot of inspections for sale inspections and sort of for rental throughout the city of Plainfield. So yeah, the goal is to try to increase there so we can be up to day 2. And there's a lot of closings going on, things taking place where inspections are needed internally. And sometimes people get short patient because it can be a long list, and the goal is to try to shorten that list over time. Like I said, we did 745 certificate of compliance sale inspections. So that's continuing to grow. And again, the city's booming. I mean, think about just the population alone from 50,000 to 54,000 folks. So it's booming, and there's a lot of things going on in Plainfield. A lot of properties being sold, and it's a positive thing. People are moving in. So just ongoing. So yes, the enforcement will help keep up with the growing city, the way the city's growing. And again, we'll move to 7 inspectors. So we have 6. It'll be a 7th inspector. And the one inspector that we have, unfortunately, had a major ailment. So I'm gonna see how that may set us back too. So we'll see what goes on with that. But for now, yes, it will benefit us overall.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman Mills Ransom.
May I ask that you reconsider what you just said about no advance emailing of questions in light of, I mean, it may be an opportunity to give the administration time to get the answer prepared for the evening. I just think the compromise would be that we would read the questions in public, but also it should not take away from one's ability to send the questions early so that the administration may be ready to answer it. If I sent a question, I can ask it again in public. That's the consideration of asking you to do.
So the questions that are sent ahead of time should be presented to the public along with the answers.
Yes.
I think that's reasonable.
Council President, I mean, quite honestly, if people want to do that, they're free to do that. But if directors are not able to answer 90% of the questions on the fly when they have time to prepare for these meetings, and it's not, these budgets that they have are not that complex, then it's an embarrassment. I mean, if they have a couple of questions here and there, they're like, oh, I just don't know the ins and outs of a Parks and Rec program. I get it.
You know, one's opinion can be one's opinion. I don't think
Okay.
That I just wanted to
Thank
say
you.
that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mills Ransom, Councilwoman.
You need to stop, Sean.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom has the floor.
This is a.
You need to stop.
Mills Ransom, will you finish your statement, please?
Yes, I'm just saying that in no way, I don't know how you turn it to say that people are not prepared or don't need time and should do everything on the fly. nobody
Oh,
knows what the question's gonna be.
I
I'm
do,
just
but
saying, that's the
right.
compromise that I'm putting out there.
And
it
I
gives more
believe
information.
some questions do require some time.
Okay.
Everyone
Yeah.
doesn't know everything, and I disagree, however, that that the administration is not prepared. There's sometimes when they need some time to, but the email thing just didn't seem like it was working properly. So those questions that are asked, even if they are prior, those questions will be asked publicly and the answers will be given publicly moving forward.
I thank you, because this is not an I got you game. This is
Right.
about
Well,
getting the information out.
we're not dealing with that, but
Okay.
and moving
Thank you.
forward, we will not be dealing with. I do, however, want to publicly apologize to Councilwoman Davis. I am not a rude person, and I was not cutting you off. I did cut you off, but I was getting direct to the point with what I was saying, so that we wouldn't be dragging it out. So, Councilwoman Davis, I apologize to you publicly for cutting you off earlier. Okay. So we're moving.
Thank you. I still don't know what we're doing in terms of questions, but I guess we'll figure it out the next budget hearing.
Questions will be, those questions that are submitted prior will be asked and answered at each deliberation moving forward.
Thank you.
No questions will just be answered by and given to one of our colleagues or to CBAC without publicly mentioning those questions and answers moving forward. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Moving forward, would the police division please begin their budget overview? Thank you for your patience, Director Dabney. Glad you could join us today. Go right ahead, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Director Dabney, thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure you close me. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, sir.
We should put the Abneys and the Dabneys on different days, because I think we're getting your trip.
We got an Abby, a Dabney, and an Abney. So we're all spread out with knees. Go right ahead, Director.
Good evening, President Good, Vice President McCray, distinguished council members, fellow directors, the Honorable Mayor Adrian O'Map, and citizens of this great city. I'll just get right into my presentation. But I want to let you know, I have a written presentation. I'm going to address recommendations by CBAC from 2021 that were put out there, and then I'll address the question I received from 2022. Plainfield Police Department has responded to 42,000 calls for service in 2021, which is down approximately 22,000 calls from 2019, pre-COVID-19. As COVID restrictions are relaxed and with the continued growth of our city, our calls for service will increase. When looking at traffic summonses, the department issued 11,880 tickets in 2021. But one of my main goals for 2022 is to improve the quality of life within our city. This can be achieved partly by taking an aggressive stance on traffic enforcement. During my first 2 weeks on the job, a much needed traffic unit was created. This unit has been very active and has motivated other officers to crack down on traffic violations throughout the city, such as speeding. For comparison, the police department wrote 3,016 tickets from January 1st, 2021 to April 12th, 2021. This year, the police department has written 6,427 tickets during that same time period. I want to make it clear that this is not about creating statistics. It is about the safety of the public. Cities that encourage traffic enforcement generally have lower crime rates. And I feel that individuals will think twice before coming to Plainfield to commit crimes if they will be pulled over for a motor vehicle violation. To move on to internal issues, one of our biggest issues at the police department is staffing. This is a nationwide issue as departments struggle to recruit and maintain officers. Currently, the department has 123 officers. In 2021, our staffing stayed around the same number. With 2 academies starting in June and July, for the first time in many years, I'm hoping to fulfill my full allocation of officers, bringing the department up to 136. This, however, may vary based on unanticipated resignations, but I am hopeful. The staffing of civilian positions has also been an issue. Burnout and sick time usage has created overtime problems. Shortage of staff has exacerbated that problem. In 2023, I'm hoping to hire additional dispatchers, bringing the total to 12. I believe this will drastically reduce overtime in the dispatch center, as I will not have to use police officers in civilian positions. This, in addition to a full complement of police officers, should reduce overtime costs across the board. Crossing guards have also been difficult to hire and maintain due to COVID-19. As you know, most of our crossing guards are senior members of our community. We currently have 30 crossing guards and need to hire another 12 to 16 to be at full staff. This creates a strain on our patrol division throughout the day, as we have to cover crossing posts with officers while actively recruiting crossing guards. If anyone knows of someone who may be interested, please reach out to Captain Christopher Fortunka of the Administrative Bureau, and I also have other officers actively recruiting crossing guards. Next, I would like to discuss grants. So far this year, we have received funding for 3 grants. The COPS grants, which at $500,000 were allocated for this fiscal year of 2022. Distracted driving, which was $10,500, and pedestrian safety, which was $15,000. And we are using these to continue our focus on making our roadways safer for pedestrians and the motoring public. We will continue to research grants to offset costs regarding our mission. All bureaus within the PD extend off of patrol. And saying that, the Service Bureau, Narcotics Bureau, and Special Operations Bureau serve vital functions as the needs of our community change. The Narcotics Bureau, for example, along with their regular duties, handled 569 firearms ID submissions, approving 439 of those after completing a thorough investigation of all applicants. The Quality of Life Task Force, which is a part of the Special Operations Bureau, addressed over 120 citizens' complaints, ranging from issues such as illegal dumping, property maintenance issues, and illegal daycare centers, and resolved all 120 of those. The Quality of Life Task Force also addressed 146 Open Public Records Act requests. All requests were seen through to a resolution. The Service Bureau has received 361 expungement requests, many dealing with marijuana expungements. The Internal Affairs Bureau has received over 102 complaints, with 98 of those marked as closed complete. Now, the department overall has participated in numerous annual events, such as National Night Out and Ebony Police Drives, and our commitment to our community. The police department currently has 75 vehicles. This is a main topic for me. 17 of those vehicles, 17 out of 75, are vehicles which are 5 years old or newer. The 58 remaining vehicles are out of warranty, with 47 of those vehicles having over 118,000 miles on them. 40 of those vehicles are over 10 years old, leading to rising costs for repairs, leading to rising costs of repairs. Now, out of those 17 vehicles I mentioned at the beginning of this, 8 of those vehicles run 24/7, 365 days a year until they are either put out for service for oil change and brake changes and regular maintenance, or they are involved in an accident or breakdown. In dealing with budget concerns, I feel a well-trained staff provides the best service to our citizens. As public employees, we must continue to educate ourselves in a rapidly changing environment. That starts with my office. I'm looking to continue training for my assistant and myself. To be an effective police executive, I must continue to train. My assistant must also sharpen her skills going forward, as changes to laws and how we conduct our business as an agency are constantly evolving. Law enforcement administrative professionals have conferences that are essential to enhancing her skills in 2022. I want to send my staff to this conference, as well as the newer members of our department. As our department continues to become younger, training is more and more important. As older officers age out or retire, they take valuable experience and training with them. I have to retrain or train these new officers so that they are up to speed, so I can provide the best services to the citizens of Plainfield as possible. The Queen City Mentoring Academy, which is a budget line item, did not take place in 2021 due to COVID-19. Instead, there were 5 barbecues hosted by the police department throughout the city and in different city parks. Okay, the funding for this academy is secured through ARPA funding, and it was mentioned earlier. Okay, it will begin on July 11th for 3 weeks and will be held at the Hubbard School. Usually 75 to 80 children attend this academy, spending time with officers and building lifelong bonds in the process. Events such as this provide positive relationships between the city youth and the police. And other budget concerns, the majority of my budget is dedicated to salaries and wages, and there are contractual maintenance agreements that have to be honored. Planning scheduling software is paid every other year, and that's a budget line item, and this is our payment year. ShotSpotter gun detection software registered 176 alerts in 2021. This software is invaluable to our police mission. In one instance, ShotSpotter was partially credited with saving the life of a citizen. Now, COVID-19 continues to be a concern. The police building is manned 24 hours a day with persons coming in and out of the building constantly. Persons who have been arrested can be in different states of medical or physical condition. Now, cleaning and sanitizing of the police department must occur. The costs have risen, but we have been able to keep the building clean and secure so far. That's my written presentation. Now, I have questions or budget recommendations from the 2021 CBAC meeting. I'm gonna read these. The department should have a breakdown, key performance indicators of crimes for the previous years. This should be broken down citywide and by wards. Methods and efforts should be taken and detailed to the public. This will make sure the budget requested is actually working or effective. Now, what I have done is I have tabulated this information that's requested here, and we are formulating an ongoing strategic plan for each ward in the city. Each ward has different issues, and these wards need different strategies to meet their goals. So that is being actively worked on. And once it's done, it will be released. A yearly forensic audit, this is the next question. A yearly forensic audit should be performed for the police department to evaluate what needs to be optimized and streamlined concerning operating budget costs. This is usually an item that wouldn't be handled under a police director's purview, but I have some comments on it, and I think they will address some of this issue. In terms of our operating budget, it is streamlined as far as possible without cutting service. I will continue to look at options such as other vendors that we can use for possible savings, but we have eliminated as much fat in our operations budget as possible. The costs that we do have are contractual obligations that are needed to provide basic services in a computer-driven era. Maintenance contracts, upkeeps of systems are the basis of our operating budget, and we must maintain these systems to comply with federal or state law. Moving on. The questions I received from CBAC for 2022 are brief, so I'll go over them briefly.
Go ahead.
Number one, it appears we will be adding 7 net new officers after the fiscal year 21 retirements, resignations, and transfers, but it doesn't look like we are replacing the retiring captain, lieutenants, or sergeant. All of those positions were actually replaced by promotions that took place in 2021 and one promotion that took place in 2022. We have 2 new captains for Tunker and Henderson. We have 4 lieutenants, Slaughter, Elamine, Lawson, and Morris, and we have 2 sergeants, Marilyn Acosta and Stephen Bailey. Question number 2, line item 104. Overtime is reduced from $1,000 versus $900 requested and $855,000 actual for 2021 with a question mark. The overtime costs addressed in this budget are being funded through ARPA funds, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. Now, question number 3, retirement compensation is 0 versus $223,000 actual for 2021. This continues to be a 0 budget line item as it is picked up through centralized funding in the main budget, and that has taken place over several years. Line item 251, safety supplies 0 versus 10,000 requested and 3,000 actual for 2021. That is ARPA funding. Number 253, medical exams and supplies, 0 versus 30,000 requested and 27,000 actual for 2021. That is the American Rescue Plan Act as well. That money mainly takes care of the medical exams that we have for new hires, whether they are police officers, dispatchers, police aides, anyone who comes into the building that needs to have a medical exam or psychological exam. A lot of that funding and stuff is done under there. It also includes fitness for duty funding. Number 6, line item 265, vehicles. What caused the 167% overage in the current year, and why is 2022 budgeted at 17% less than the 2021 budgeted amount? Transferred funds at the end of the year replaced those vehicles. The cost of one police vehicle is estimated, and this is based on last year, at $75,000 to $80,000 fully equipped with all the equipment, the radio, the lights, the sirens, the back cage to contain prisoners. So the $90,000 there basically will only afford us one vehicle, and that would be at last year's numbers. The cost of police vehicles has risen. And actually at this time, because of a chip shortage, the vehicles that we have ordered have not arrived as of yet. The other part of that money is the cost of auto parts has increased due to supply and demand. Most of these parts wind up going on the vehicles that we have running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. Item number 7, 353 on the budget line. Community programs, cadets, 0 versus 3,500 requested and 5,000 actual for 2021. Is this program being eliminated? That is talking about the Queen City Academy, which I already discussed. There's a question here about crossing guards. $404,500 is 35% over the 2021 budget and 142% over 2021 actual. I read that pay was increased in 2021, but this increase seems high based on the 2021 actual. Crossing guards increased, it says, I'm short crossing guards. We only have 30 as of right now. We probably need about 45 to actively cross kids safely throughout the city. The reason that the numbers are the way they are is that last year at one point we were down to 20 crossing guards. So it was only payment for those 22, 23 or 4 people. As the number of guards we hire and maintain, stay on the job, this number will go up. So that's where the fluctuation is. Okay. I'm trying to get close to that number, but I need more staff. Those are the questions that I got from feedback. Now, this is the question I got through Honorable Councilwoman Terry Bridge Jones. Is there a difference between last year's budget and the proposed budget for this year? Okay, most of my changes are mainly through increases in salary and wages as we move forward, and also overtime issues. Has manpower been increased or decreased? Okay, manpower is basically the same. At this time last year, we were around 124, 125. Now we're at 123. So it's basically the same, but with retirements and resignations, I have to create a succession plan. That's why I'm trying to hire up to our top level. That way, if we lose people, I can still effectively man different things that we need to do throughout the city to make people safe or to keep people safe, and to also address the influx of new residents coming into our city. It says, to assist you, do you need other things such as uniforms, gloves, boots, etc.? If there were additional funds that could be allocated for the same, please give us an example. My uniform budget is stable. That's one thing that I don't have really an issue with right now. A lot of we just replace uniforms if officers damage them, if they get in a fight and the uniform gets torn, if it gets bloody or there's some issue with it, we replace those. Other than that, they have a uniform allowance that they use to maintain and get more uniforms outside of when people first come on the job. Now, the next question is, has there been anything cut from your budget that might be of importance right now? My answer is no. Now, after the meetings, that may change, but for right now, my answer is no. In brief, what changes are you asking for in this new budget? Nothing as of this budget. Next year, I'm looking for creative ways to address our police vehicle issue. That could be possibly through leasing. And also I'll be looking for ways to outfit the COP unit, which will require uniforms, bikes, and other needed outlays. I will also be looking to add 5 new auxiliaries in 2023. This is a great community-based operation. It builds teamwork and camaraderie with citizens in the community, and in the past it has worked very well. I'm looking to refund that, and also I would need to cover the outlays regarding them, outfitting them with uniforms, outfitting them with guns and weapons and other things that they may need. And that is basically the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Director Dabney, thank you so much for that presentation. And as we move to my council colleagues, I will ask Councilwoman Terry Briggs Jones, were you satisfied with those answers that Director Abney supplied you?
Yes, thank you, Director Abney, and thank you for answering my questions in brief and explaining to my colleagues as well as the public. Thank you.
Council
Thank
President,
you.
can I just?
And can I jump in?
ask-
Can I jump in for 1 second? I'm sorry. Councilman McKenna, I'm sorry. When I went over the CBAC budget recommendations from 2021, there's some other questions here that I forgot to answer. Can I answer those real quick?
Yes, you can. Director,
Thank you.
go right ahead.
Okay, there's a question here. All new hires should reside in the city of Plainfield. Let me go through that. Per civil service guidelines, all cities and towns under the Civil Service Commission have a residency requirement. The city of Plainfield is a civil service city. The issue is that the residency requirement is only until the date of appointment, which means that you have to live in Plainfield through the hiring process. But once you are sworn as an officer, you can live anywhere you please within the state of New Jersey. You just cannot live out of the state of New Jersey. That is why many of our officers, as well as other officers in other urban areas, live out of town. Okay. Currently, when the Plainfield list is exhausted, meaning that we have no more candidates on that list, we have to then go to the county police list and then the state list for municipal officers. On these lists, there are generally no Plainfield residents. Okay. So that means that we can only available, and these are the only means we have available to hire new officers. Also, as previously discussed, there's an officer shortage throughout the country. I am currently operating with a 10% sworn officer shortage. That equals out to 13 officers. 13 officers short puts the department in a position where I cannot provide certain services such as a COP unit and to cohesively address issues in our downtown area. It also doesn't allow me to effectively staff a police substation or other units that are necessary to be more aggressively proactive in crime reduction. This year is an outlier, okay, whereas I have to rely on county and state hiring lists to staff the department. Our current Plainfield list has 4 names on it currently, and we're going through that list right as we speak. Even if all of those 4 names were seen through and they were hired and they went through the background checks and they met all of our requirements, I still have 9 vacancies that I have to fill. Okay, if I waited for a new civil service list to come out for the city of Plainfield, okay, I would not have the new officers ready to work on their own until sometime in the spring or summer of 2024. That puts the department in a precarious situation. I have no choice at this time but to hire the best people I can within state law. That was the answer to the hiring question. Now, create new ways police can connect with the public and increase awareness in the community. As I said, as we try to bring back units such as COP, our outreach within the community will increase. Police officers need to be a part of the city's landscape, walking, riding bikes, and interacting with seniors and citizens in every ward. I'm sorry, seniors and children in every ward. I have the plans, but I need the staff. Once staffing is increased, we will look to have many stations in the Joanne Hollis Public Housing Complex. We have a space there that's been given to us by the Housing Authority. We can use that. We'll look to put something in the downtown district and also something along the South Avenue corridor. And those will be staffed with COP officers. And that completes my presentation. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much, Director.
Council President, before we go.
Councilman McKenna, we're going in the same order that
No,
we
I
went
was
in.
just gonna ask if, because I think.
Well, you will have that opportunity after.
No, it's not
Council.
a question of mine. I'm just asking if, because I think it's important because Director Abney mentioned it twice in his presentation. But I think when he went through the numbers, it was very quick because he knows the numbers. If he repeated the vehicle numbers again, but a little slower for us that are.
Okay, and when we get to when we get to you, then he can do that. But right now, we're going to move to Councilwoman Ashley Davis.
Ma'am.
Why, thank you. Director Dabney, Director Abney, I'm sorry. What a thorough presentation that was. So I know you talked about staff development and training for not only you, but your executive assistant. But when I looked at the budget, in terms of travel or official business reimbursements, as well as staff development and training, it was zero. So are ARPA funds going to be used towards that? Or was it just not allocated for this year?
I thought I had $6,000 there, no?
Oh, wait, I take it. Wait, no, for the police department, you have 2,500, but for your office, it has zero for travel and official reimbursement. And then under other expenses, you have 6,000. Is that going towards training?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's just in the wrong place. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a difference in salary and wages for the actual police department. Do you know why there is a difference between what you requested and what the administration is recommending?
I don't have the exact figures in front of me. I know that $500,000 out of salary and wages is a part of the COPS grant. That we have that money for 3 years. It gradually goes down year to year. I know $500,000 of it is that. The other funding, I don't know the exact numbers. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I think it's about 500,000. So that makes sense. And could you repeat slowly the numbers when it comes to the cars and stuff so we could get that out the way, please?
Yes, we have 75 police vehicles, okay? 17 of those are 5 years old or newer. That leaves 58 vehicles. Out of those 58 vehicles, let me make sure I do it right. 47 of those vehicles have over 118,000 miles on them. Okay, and out of that same 47 vehicles, 40 of those are over 10 years old. This leads to a lot of our repairs and issues and problems that we have with our vehicles. They're old, they're beaten up. Some of them are 20 years old. It's a problem.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have for tonight.
Councilman Hockaday.
Yes, Director Abney, just want to commend you on a very fine and thorough written presentation. It was very.
Thank you, sir.
My main concern is just the overtime. I know that it kind of gets away from us year after year. If you could just go into a little bit more what strategies you have to kind of limit the overtime. And I know you're in a tough place because I'm sure, our officers like overtime, I mean, but there's plenty of overtime out there. I guess it just depends on what type of overtime, particularly, overtime where you have to, where they have to do civilian jobs, ends up being costly to the city. And not really that efficient. So if you could just talk about some strategies towards getting us through that, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. One of the biggest problems we have is that as we work through our hiring process, we still have to meet the needs of the city. so that I have some mandatory overtime assignments that I must cover. So in the patrol division, to just give an example, at many points throughout the day, I have a mandatory minimum of officers that I have to have on the street per contract to meet the needs of the city, to answer calls for service, and so on. As we lose officers either through resignation or retirement, okay, that puts a strain on the number of people that I have to fill these positions. That's why I'm looking, the biggest way to fix overtime in the city is for me to hire up to the top of my table of organization, which is 136. And then even by doing that, I still won't really reap the benefits of it for another year or so, because it takes that long for an officer to be prepared to actually go out on the street on his own and answer calls for service. This is what I was mentioning before. If when I was talking about residency, if I hired an officer today and the academy starts in June, okay, from that June date, it takes me approximately a year for that officer to be able to get into a Plainfield police vehicle by himself and answer calls for service. And that is getting through the academy and through our coach training period that we have once they graduate from the academy. That creates the biggest overtime problem that we have in terms of the patrol division. The other problem is within dispatch. Dispatch does not have enough personnel for us to adequately meet the needs of the city. So we constantly have an overtime issue in dispatch. Part of it is also because of the scheduling that they work. The schedule that they work is a 4-2 schedule, which is something that I'm going to change, but it puts them in a position where they are constantly working. They work for 4 days. They may have a day off if they want to take a day off. I may be short coverage and they may work a day for us. So they work 5 days, then they have 1 day off to complete all their business, take care of their home, take care of their children, and do everything that they need to do. And then they're right back here at work. That's a problem. And that has created the overtime issue that we have. If we hire 12 dispatchers where I can work a 4-4 schedule, I can put 6 people on one side and 6 people on the other. It's magic, it'll work.
Is that the best solution? Or
That I see, yes. There's no, without hurting services that we provide to the citizens, that I can only hire to fix these issues. Those are the best solutions that I see at this time.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman McKenna.
Yes, so Director Abney, first of all, I'm just going to say in 3 years on the council and budget hearings and 1 as a CBAC member, I've never seen a director refer to a prior CBAC recommendation list. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you, sir.
I do want to ask you, first of all, the cars you're replacing, you're going to replace with the sedans, or you go towards the Explorer SUV?
I think we're going to go with the SUVs for now.
And how many?
That's what we have ordered.
Okay, so we have, I think we just approved, is it 9 that we just voted for recently? For you to get? Hopefully you're going to get them all. It was said it was going to the police department. Sometimes they end up elsewhere.
I have, I'm sorry?
It was a bond ordinance. I think there were 9.
I know I have 4 on back order. They're all going to patrol. They're all going to the patrol.
This was our last meeting, so you might be considering others.
I'm considering others from the past.
Okay.
Right now, I can't, I'm not sure, but as far as I know, they will all go to patrol.
So let me ask you this.
They're going to go into the patrol bureau.
Okay, so if they're the SUVs, how many of these do we have in our capital improvement budget, which is a 6-year budget? 6-year plan, not a 6-year budget, but a 6-year plan that the city manages, that the city does and manages through the planning board. How many? Because that would be considered a capital improvement, those SUVs. How many do we have slated for the coming years? Director West, would you know that?
I'm looking to bring it up now. I can tell you that the the budget doesn't show a full replacement of those over the 6-year period is the ultimate answer to your question.
Okay.
There are vehicles that were purchased through the operating budget. There are vehicles in the capital budget, but that doesn't come anywhere close to the 47.
And I know that in prior years, we don't have a capital improvement plan like we used to have that went out 6 years. It's all ad hoc. So you've literally got 63% of your vehicles are at any given time, Director, could end up useless.
That is correct.
Okay, so that's a problem because not having officers is a big problem. Not having officers to have a vehicle to go do anything is even bigger problem. But my big question is, and I skipped a lot of this because you kind of answered everything or touched on it in a general way, but I'm curious if you've got, and the way I'm looking at it, I just like to know how you solve it because I know you're, kind of jumping in new to this. Over the last 2 years between retirements and resignations, you're running at about 18 a year, mostly resignations, then you've got retirements, which are going to happen. People put their time in. I looked back at my notes from the budget session last year, and I honestly was having a hard time reading my notes because I scribbled a couple of things, but it was either 8 or 10 people coming out of the academy. How do you get to 136 when you're losing on average over the last 2 years, 18? You're losing 8 a year at that rate, right?
Well, couple of things. Let me jump in. One thing is in terms of the vehicles, if we go to a leasing program, it may solve some of our problems where we don't have to constantly finance, but then that's a whole nother conversation. The vehicles we have for the patrol mission, we can still do our job. The other vehicles for narcotics bureau, detectives, and different things like that, those are where most of our dinosaur vehicles are. So we can still get to our calls and we can still effectively answer calls for service. It's just that, some of these other vehicles have issues with them. Now, to go into what you were just asking me about, actually, since I've come back, at least one person has inquired about coming back to the department. I spoke to some other people who were looking to come back here. So I don't think that, I think I'll be able to stem the tide with people leaving. The morale is good. I think things are going in the right direction. So I'm confident I can get very close to 136.
In what time frame?
I'm hoping to do it this year.
By the end of this year, you can get from 123 to 136?
I just have to hire 13 people.
And how come, or how, maybe we do this, I don't know that I've heard it, but why do we not do lateral hires like other departments? Because a lot of our resignations went to other police departments in the state area, metropolitan area of Plainfield. How do we not poach them?
Several reasons. Most departments, especially suburban departments, are looking for seasoned officers because of the George Floyd situation. A lot of departments are looking to hire minority officers, and a lot of these departments pay at a higher wage scale than we can afford to pay within the city of Plainfield.
And do they have different steps as well?
I'm sorry?
Do they have a different number of steps than we do as well between that and the wages?
I don't know. Every department varies. It depends on the PBA and contract negotiations and different things that really are out of my control. But I know that a lot of times, a lot of these departments, they take on officers from other places. They're well-trained. They've worked in urban areas. They understand a lot about police work, and they can pay them significantly more than we can. And and whether it's steps or it's not steps, it's still a lot more money than we can just afford to pay. It's that we have to think of the citizens of the city when we negotiate contracts. So we have to be cognizant of what we're doing across the board. East Orange, Irvington, other departments, I talk to their directors, they have the same problems. They're losing officers at an alarming rate because they don't have the financial resources to pay what a Franklin or another town can.
So you think by the end of the year, you can get to the 136?
I'm praying.
In cars, 136. Or in uniform. We'll hold you to in uniform.
With the current chip shortage, I'll be lucky to get the 4 that we ordered last year before December.
Okay, so 136 in uniforms walking around a bike. One of the,
No, 136 in different stages, either in the academy or somewhere else, but they'll be on the payroll.
okay, I appreciate
That's
that. And then
fine.
my last question on this, only because it relates to Director Abney's capital improvement quandary, is if Director West could send me the capital improvement budget when he gets an opportunity, the long-term one.
Certainly, but and in response to your question, the answer is 4 vehicles are in the capital improvement ordinance.
Was that from last meeting? Didn't we have a bond ordinance
Yes.
that had?
Yeah,
and just
and
four
it's purchase of 4 fully equipped, non-passenger
SUVs?
utility vehicles for the police department.
That would give me 8, which would help a lot.
Oh, that's 4 in addition to the 4 that director thinks
That's
are.
correct.
All right, so you got 8.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, Director West and Director Abney.
Thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Mills Ransom. I believe you're muted.
Thank you, President. Director Abney, just one small question. I know you said you needed in the double digits crossing guards, but as you were talking about the overtime, you didn't mention them, and I don't know. So the question is, do they also affect your overtime? The absence of them?
They can. They can. When I don't have crossing guards to man crossing posts, I have to put officers out there. I mean, in most cases, I'm pulling people out of the building. I'm using patrol officers to do that. But sometimes I have to hold officers over from the night shift to make sure that I have enough officers here to effectively cross children. So yes, it can be a part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that all, Councilwoman?
Yes,
Mills
it
Ransom?
is. It was a
Okay.
very thorough report and lots
Yes,
of
it
questions
was.
before me, you know. So
Yes, it was.
Ma'am.
Vice President McCray.
Director Abney, thank you for a very thorough presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Very enlightening, and to see that you're doing a great job, only being on the job a short period of time, of getting your arms around the things that we need to move the department forward. And, you know, all I can say is that I'm pleased with the presentation, and most of my questions have been answered.
Thank you, sir.
Director Abney, I would have to say that was a very, very thorough presentation, probably one of the best that I've heard since I've been on the council.
Thank you, sir.
I concur with Vice President McCray. You hit the ground running, and I'm pretty sure my colleagues will agree that you're doing a fantastic job. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam CBAC Chair Bright, were you satisfied with the answers that you received? And if you were, are there any more questions that you would like to ask Police Director Abney?
Thank you, Council President. Director Abney, that was a very thorough presentation, and no, there are no additional questions from CBAC.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. So at this point, since there are no more questions from council colleagues and the CBAC committee, we're going to move to citizens participation. And a total of 30 minutes have been allocated for public comments. If you wish to be heard, please hit the hand icon to be recognized and you will be unmuted. Once unmuted, please give your name and address for the record. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. The floor is now open. Going once, going twice. May I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, if we need it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all for participating on this evening. To Director Abney and Director Dabney for very, I know, say it 3 times fast, right?
Yeah.
For very, very awesome presentations. There are a couple of things I would like to say. Moving forward, please, colleagues, please be respectful when someone is speaking. You have your chance to make your comment. Please don't talk over your colleague. Let your colleague have their chance to speak. Please be respectful. And when a department head or a member of the administration is speaking, please allow them to answer their question. And if you have any more questions, ask once they're finished, because talking over them, we can't hear what they're saying. So with that being said, we want to
Council
try.
President, quick question for you. If we as council members just let the directors go on and on answering questions, when we only allotted 10 minutes, I don't think that works. I think we need to get the answer to our question and then move on to our next one so we can get as many of the questions in the 10
Councilman
minutes.
McKenna, you know, I've been so patient tonight, but I refuse to bring a potty chair, juice boxes, and fruit snacks to these deliberations.
I agree.
We will be respectful. We will give them a chance to answer their your questions, and you will move right after that to answer the question. Ask the next question.
For 10 minutes, and then my 10 minutes is over. So I need to get an answer to the question and say, thank you very much. Let me ask you the next question. And I think that's my role as a representative of my constituents, to get as many questions in the 10 minutes that I'm allowed.
And if you can't get all your questions in, they will still be answered, Councilman McKenna. Because all you have to,
when this is a council budget and we're given 10 minutes.
Exactly. So 10 minutes. There's going to be some order and structure here. Okay. And I think, well, you know something? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
All right.
Great evening, everybody.
Good night.